सर्वेभ्यः हृत्पूर्वक नमस्काराः। स्वागतम्। A warm welcome to all of you to the 39th class of Shivanandalahari. Adya tavat Shravana Purnima अस्ति, तथा श्रावण शनिवासरः, तथा संस्कृतदिनमपि। सर्वेभ्यः संस्कृतदिनस्य, श्रावणपूर्णिमायाः, श्रावणशनिवारस्य ये सिंहपुरवासिनः सन्ति तेषां कृते नेशनल् डे अपि अस्ति। सर्वेभ्यः हृत्पूर्वक शुभाशयाः। अद्य वयं शिवानन्दलहरीं पठिष्यामः इति अहो अस्माकं सौभाग्यमेव इति मन्ये। संस्कृतदिने तथा श्रावणपूर्णिमायां तथा श्रावणशनिवासरे. So today is a very special day on many counts, and I know we all have festivals at home. Yesterday Varamahalakshmi for those who celebrated, and today that continues. And Shravana Shanivara, that is Saturday of the Shravana month, which is very auspicious. And we also have Shravana Purnima today, which is the full moon of Shravana Masa, which is also a very special day. And every Shravana Purnima is celebrated as Samskrita Dinam, the day dedicated to Sanskritam. The World Sanskrit Day, Samskrita Dinam, is today, which falls on Shravana Purnima. So that's the reason I thought we must have a class today, because what better day than to have this chanting yajna and jnana yajna of Shivanandalahari with such beautiful Sanskritam by our Shankaracharya. So I thought we should have this session today. And for those who are in Singapore, it's also the Singapore National Day today. So many ways in which this day is significant. And a very happy National Day to those who are celebrating in Singapore. And of course, to all of us, let us undertake this journey, not just with Sanskritam, not just till this course, but then let us all try to contemplate and practice, and also to further teach and spread these verses, whatever you have learned. So teach them after we master them, of course, because we have to be perfect before teaching others. And so study these verses and also share this joy and bliss with others. So a very important day in that sense. So let us begin. And again, by the grace of Bhagavan and Acharya, we have wonderful verses lined up for today. I'm hoping we'll be able to complete those. And so next week, probably we'll take up revision. So today I thought it's just his plan that maybe these verses came up for today. So we should just learn those verses which consecutively, that is 62 and 63. Hopefully we'll do that. And the next week we can have a revision session of 51 to 60. So let us begin. Welcome once again to all of you and to our panelists, Shriya and Sharu. Gururev gatirgurumev bhaji Gurunaiva sahasmi namo gurave Na guro paramam shishurasmi guroh Matirasti gurau mama pahi guru Shruti smriti purananamayam karunalayam Namami bhagavat pada shankaram loka shankaram Saundaryalahari kartre sarvamangaladayine Shankaracharya varyaya yatirajayate namaha शङ्कारूपेण मच्चित्तं पङ्कीकृतमभूद्यया किङ्करीयस्य सा माया शङ्कराचार्यमाश्रये प्रह्लादवरदो देवो यो नृसिंहः परो हरिः नृसिंहोपासकं नित्यं तं नृसिंहगुरुं भजे श्री सच्चिदानन्द शिवाभिनव्य नृसिंह भारत्यभिधान्यतीन्द्रान् विद्यानिधिं मन्त्रनिधिं सदात्मनिष्ठां भजे मानव शम्भुरूपान् सदात्मध्याननिरतं विषयेभ्यः पराङ्मुखं नौमि शास्त्रेषु निष्णातम् चन्द्रशेखर भारतीं विवेकिनं महाप्रज्ञं धैर्यौदार्यक्षमानिधिं सदाभिनवपूर्वन्तं विद्यातीर्थगुरुं भजे भारती करुणापात्रं भारती पदभूषणं भारती पदमारूढं भारती तीर्थमाश्रये भारती तीर्थपर्यन्तं भक्तहृत्तापनाशनं भवभीतिहरं देवं भावये सततं हृदि विद्या विनय संपन्नं वीतरागौ विवेकिनं वन्दे वेदान्त तत्त्वज्ञौ विधुशेखर भारतीम् अनन्त गुण संपन्नामनन्ताभिधयाश्रुताम् अनन्त ज्ञानदात्रीं तां मातरं प्रणुमो वयम् गैर्वाण्या संविबोधेन जीवनं मौल्यसंयुतम् या करोत्तान्नमाम्यम्बां शारदामूर्तरूपिणीम् कलाभ्यां चूडालङ्कृत शशिकलाभ्यां निजतपः फलाभ्यां भक्तेषु प्रकटित फलाभ्यां भवतु मे शिवाभ्यामस्तोकत्रिभुवन शिवाभ्यां हृदि पुनर्भवाभ्यामानन्दस्फुरदनुभवाभ्यान्नतिरियम् Okay, so last class we learnt verses 60 and 61. So in verse 60, Shankaracharya, he describes how a person who is struggling in the currents of the water would seek the bank, and a traveler would seek the shade of a tree. So here we had discussed an Anvaya, and according to the Anvaya which we have in the PPT and we had discussed, so we had discussed that it would be Rodhaha Toyashramena Patikaha Rodhaha Brishtitaha Bhitaha Taroho Chaya. That is what we had discussed last class. That is, a person who is struggling in the currents would seek the banks of a river, currents of water would seek the banks of a river, and the one who is struggling, or rather the one who is scared of the rain, would seek the tree. So one of our participants in our class, she very kindly messaged and told me that we could have an alternative Anvaya to this. So alternative is, Anvaya is basically a prose order. So when all these are in the nature of poetry, right? It's not prose. So whenever we have the prose order, we have multiple ways to interpret. So another interpretation which she very rightly suggested is, we could say Pathikaha Taroho Chaya. The traveler seeks the shade of a tree. Brishtitaha Bhitaha Swasthagriham. The one who is scared of the rain would seek a Swasthagriham, a guest house or a shelter. And Grihastham Atithihi. Atithihi Grihastham. A guest would seek a we would seek the hospitality of a grihastha. So this also is an interpretation which we could take, because I mean, generally, and we all know that we don't stand under a tree when there is heavy rain due to lightning, etc. So, I mean, ultimately, the meaning is the same here. Like we discussed, artha, that is what all this artha bhakti, where you are in distress. Somebody is in distress and seeking their respective shelters here. So here, सर्व भयापहम शंभोः पदाम्भोरुहं चेतः व्रज. So when we are in the samsara and have all kinds of fears, many fears, no need to even list them by living in this world. So then we are in distress at many points of time in our life. So the only way to overcome this distress is by seeking refuge in the lotus feet of Parameshwara. Artha Bhakti, like we saw last time. So that is also a wonderful interpretation. Thank you, Bhagini, for that. So we could have that also, that Patikaha Taroho Chaya, Vrishtitaha Bhitaha Swasthagraham, Grihastam Atitihi, Dinaha Prabhu Dharmikam. So that's also possible. But ultimately, we know what Acharya Shankara is trying to, the point he is driving home to all of us in this particular verse. The next verse, we saw how there are, he's again a beautiful description in nature. He has taken a lot of examples and given us the comparisons. Ankolam nija bija santadihi ayaskantopalam suchika. Satvi naija vibhum lata kshitiruham sindhuhu saridvallabham prapnoti. How all these are naturally drawn towards their destinations, or they seek. That is Ankolam. The Ankola, the seeds of the Ankola tree, how they are drawn towards the mother tree itself. And finally, the final example he gives us Sindhuhu Saridvallabham. The way the river merges with the ocean. And always you see all rivers are flowing to the ocean, right? There is no other thing we see in nature. A river, by default in nature, all rivers flow and merge with the ocean. There is no river which doesn't, right? So the natural destination for a river is to flow towards the ocean or the sea. And once it becomes one with the sea or the ocean, that there is no difference, as in we cannot separate them as this is river water and this is sea water. They become one, they merge together. That is the ultimate bhakti. So last time, we had sa bhakti rityuchyate. Very beautifully he says, cheto vritti rupetya pashupatehe padara vindadvayam cheto vrittihi upetya sada tishthati. Once the mind seeks the, or having reached the lotus feet of Parameshwara and always stays there, sa bhakti rityuchyate. That is bhakti. So we saw, some of you had asked me which verse in Gita. So I thought I'll point out here. It is verse 7 of, verse 16 of the 7th chapter. 7th chapter, verse 16. Chatur vidha bhajante mam jana sukriti norjuna arto jignasurartharthi jnani cha bharatarshava. That is the verse. Very beautifully, Krishna describes Chaturvidha mam bhajante. 4 kinds of people, they seek me or they worship me. Janaha, Sukritinaha, Arjuna. Sukritinaha, Janaha, the ones who have Sukritam. 4 kinds, they worship me, O Arjuna. And who are they? Artaha. That is the ones in distress, like we saw in the verse 60, the ones who are in distress, like a traveler who is caught, or any kind of distress in life. Then to overcome that distress or that suffering or that trouble, that difficulty, then we seek Bhagavan's help. So that is Artha Bhakti. Then Jignasuhu, the one we Jnatum Ichha Jignasa. That is the grammatically, that's how that word is constructed. Jnatum Ichha Jignasa. The interest or the urge to know is Jignasa. So there are many who say, I want to know whether there is that truth called Parameshwara. What is it? I want to know that. So I want to understand where that has been described and all that. So that seeker of knowledge, that is Jignasa. And Artharthi, the one seeking material wealth. And Jnani is the ultimate bhakta, where he has attained or she has attained Atma Jnanam, Satchidanandam, Shivanandam, Brahmanandam, and has merged with Paramatma and understands that Jivatma Paramatma Aikya, that Advaita Bhava, who has reached that stage. That is ultimate Jnani. So there, next verse, again Krishna, that is chapter 7, verse 17, he says, Tesham Jnani Nityayuktaha Eka Bhaktir Vishishyate. Among those, only Jnani is Nityayuktaha. He is always steadfast in his devotion and steadfast in, he's always with Paramatma. Why? Because Artaha, once our distress goes, then when we tend to forget, and it's very common, we want something, once we get that, we may tend to forget Bhagavan, Puja, everything. Then any other form, Artharthi, you get what you want, the materialistic possession you're seeking, you get, then you can forget Bhagavan. But who is Nitya Yukta, always, who thinks Ananyaha Chintayantaha, who is such a person? That is only Jnani. Tesham Jnani Nityayuktaha Eka Bhaktir Vishishyate. See, I wanted to highlight this verse here because very beautifully Krishna also is saying that Jnani is the one who is special. Vishishyate Eka Bhakti, single-minded, steadfast devotion. So this Jnana and Bhakti both are there in this verse and in Shivanandalahari, the verses we are seeing now. So that person who has attained that Shivanandam, Atmajnana, he has the single-minded devotion. Eka Bhakti, Vishishyate, he is the best or the most special among all the kind of bhaktas. Priyo hi jnaninotyartham aham sacha mama priyaha. So I am extremely dear to the Jnani. Bhagavan is extremely the dearest to the Jnani, the Bhakta, who is that Eka Bhakti. And Sacha Mama Priyaha, he is also very dear to me. So very apt to see 60-61 verses in light of 60-61 of Shivanandalahari in light of chapter 7, 16 and 17th verse of Gita. So you can go back and read the Gita and maybe list. There's a lot of commentary written also, so you can go through that. Now let us go to verse 62 for today. Shriya. आनन्दाश्रुभिरातनोति पुलकम्
आनन्दाश्रुभिरातनोति पुलकम् आनन्दाश्रुभिरातनोति पुलकम्
नैर्मल्यतश्चादनम्
नैर्मल्यतश्चादनम्
वाचा शङ्खमुखे स्थितैश्च
वाचा शङ्खमुखे स्थितैश्च वाचा शङ्खमुखे स्थितैश्च
जठरापूर्तिं चरित्रामृतैः
जठरापूर्तिं चरित्रामृतैः जठरापूर्तिं चरित्रामृतैः
रुद्राक्षैर्भसितेन देववपुषः
रुद्राक्षैर्भसितेन देववपुषः रुद्राक्षैर्भसितेन देववपुषः
रक्षां भवद्भावना पर्यङ्के
रक्षा भवद्भावना पर्यङ्के रक्षा भवद्भावना
रक्षां there is a anuswara रक्षां भवद्भावना पर्यङ्के
रक्षां भवद्भावना पर्यङ्के रक्षां भवद्भावना पर्यङ्के
विनिवेश्य भक्तिजननी
विनिवेश्य भक्तिजननी विनिवेश्य भक्तिजननी
भक्तार्भकं रक्षति
भक्तार्भकं रक्षति भक्तार्भकं रक्षति
आनन्दाश्रुभिः भी नोट द महाप्राण आतनोति पुलकं नैर्मल्यतश्चादनं नैर्मल्यतः छादनं कंबाइनिंग नैर्मल्यतश्चादनं छा महाप्राण वाचा शंखमुखे ख ख महाप्राण स्थितैश्च जठरा पूर्तिं when you combine jatara purtim charitramritaihi it becomes jatara purtim charitramritaihi. Amritaihi, not the pronunciation of the word. It's not amritam. It is amritam, not amru also. Amritam, amritaihi. Rudraksha, not the vitvam. Rudrakshair bhasitena, bha, mahaprana. Deva vapushaha raksham. Here we don't pause, we continue together. Bhavat bhavana paryanke. Note the mahapranas there. Viniveshya Bhakti Janani, Bha is Mahaprana, Bhaktar Bhakam, Bha Mahaprana, Rakshati, Rakshati, note the Dvitvam there also. Anandashrubhihi, Anandashru, Dvitvam there. Nairmalyataschadhanam, Nairmalya, La is doubling. The subtle, you should note subtly how Dvitvam is appearing in all these words. Nairmalyataschadhanam. And second line, Vacha Shankhamukhe Sthitaishcha Jatarapurthin Charitramritaihi. There we don't pause, we chant together. At the Yati we can't pause there. Charitra, note the Dvitvam there. Charitramritaihi. Amritaihi, there is no Dvitvam. There is a tendency sometimes, to chant it as Amritaihi. That is not right. There is no Dvitvam there. It is Amritam. Okay. आनन्दाश्रुभिरातनोति पुलकं नैर्मल्यतश्चादनम्
आनन्दाश्रुभिरातनोति पुलकं नैर्मल्यतश्चादनम् आनन्दाश्रुभिरातनोति पुलकं नैर्मल्यतश्चादनम्
वाचा शङ्खमुखे स्थितैश्च जठरा पूर्तिं चरित्रामृतैः
वाचा शङ्खमुखे स्थितैश्च जठरा पूर्तिं चरित्रामृतैः वाचा शङ्खमुखे स्थितैश्च जठरा पूर्तिं चरित्रामृतैः
उत्तमम् रुद्राक्षैर्भसितेन देववपुषः रक्षां भवद्भावना पर्यङ्के
रुद्राक्षैर्भसितेन देववपुषः रक्षां भवद्भावना पर्यङ्के रुद्राक्षैर्भसितेन देववपुषः रक्षां भवद्भावना पर्यङ्के
विनिवेश्य भक्तिजननी भक्ताद्भकं रक्षति
विनिवेश्य भक्तिजननी भक्तार्भकं रक्षति विनिवेश्य भक्तिजननी भक्तार्भकं रक्षति
आनन्दाश्रुभिरातनोति पुलकम् नैर्मल्यतश्चादनम् वाचा शङ्खमुखे स्थितैश्च जठरा पूर्तिं चरित्रामृतैः
आनन्दाश्रुभिरातनोति पुलकं नैर्मल्यतश्चादनम् वाचा शङ्खमुखे स्थितैश्च जठरा पूर्तिं चरित्रामृतैः आनन्दाश्रुभिरातनोति पुलकं नैर्मल्यतश्चादनं वाचा शङ्खमुखे स्थितैश्च जठरापूर्तिं चरित्रामृतैः
चैर्भसितेन देववपुषः रक्षां भवद्भावनापर्यङ्के विनिवेश्य भक्तिजननी भक्तार्भकं रक्षति।
रुद्राक्षैर्भसितेन देववपुष sorry the tune रुद्राक्षैर्भसितेन देववपुषः रक्षां भवद्भावनापर्यङ्के विनिवेश्य भक्तिजननी भक्तार्भकं रक्षति रुद्राक्षैर्भसितेन देववपुषः रक्षां भवद्भावनापर्यङ्के विनिवेश्य भक्तिजननी भक्तार्भकं रक्षति।
Now the entire verse. Anandashrubirathanoti pulakam नैर्मल्यतश्चादनं वाचा शङ्खमुखे स्थितैश्च जठरापूर्तिं चरित्रामृतैः रुद्राक्षैर्भसितेन देववपुषः रक्षां भवद्भावनापर्यङ्के विनिवेश्य भक्तिजननी भक्तार्भकं रक्षति।
आनन्दाश्रुभिरातनोति पुलकं नैर्मल्यतश्चादनं वाचा शङ्खमुखे स्थितैश्च जठरापूर्तिं चरित्रामृतैः रुद्राक्षैर्भसितेन देववपुषः रक्षां भवद्भावनापर्यङ्के विनिवेश्य भक्तिजननी भक्तार्भकं रक्षति।
भक्तिजननी भक्तार्भकं रक्षति. Bhakti here the bhakti, devotion, herself is the mother. Bhakti Janani. Also see so beautiful in Sanskritam. Bhakti is a Strilinga pada in Sanskritam. Those who are learning will know. In Sanskritam we have like vrikshaha, for example, that is a pullinga pada. So we have akara. When you learn a shabda, you learn what anta it is, what linga it is. So bhakti is a Strilinga pada. And here bhakti herself is Janani. Bhakti Janani. The bhakti herself is devotion. Kim karoti bhakti janani? What does she do? Bhaktarbhakam rakshati. Sa bhakti janani bhakta arbhakam. Bhaktihi janani eva. The mother is devotion. Devotion is the mother. So devotion is compared to a mother. So bhakti janani. She is devotion. Herself is mother. In the personified form, this verse contemplates bhakti herself to be janani. Bhakta, the devotee. Bhakta is who? Arbhaka. He is a newborn infant, newborn child. A very young newborn child is the devotee. Sa bhakti janani kim karoti? Bhakti janani bhaktarbhakam rakshati. The mother called devotion, she protects the bhakta who is a newly born child. For all of us, for Jagat Janani, all of us are like that. So all of us have to be protected by her. Otherwise, we are not capable of anything. And how does she protect? That is beautifully described in this verse by our Shankaracharya. Deva, he's addressing Parmeshwara only. Deva, he's telling, oh Parmeshwara, Bhakti Janani Bhaktarbhakam Rakshati. This is how Bhakti Janani protects the newborn infant of the devotee, Bhakta. How does she do it? Anandashrubihi pulakam atanoti, nairmalyataha chadanam atanoti, vacha shankhamukhe sthitaischa charitamritaihi, jatharapurtim atanoti, Rudrakshaihi bhasitena vakushaha raksham atanoti bhavat bhavana paryanke viniveshya bhakti janani bhaktarbhakam rakshati. A very beautiful description of how a mother cares for a newborn infant, a newborn child. So how does the mother care for a newborn baby? We know how important every little thing is to protect that child who is just born or a few days baby. So anandashrubihi pulakam atanoti, with tears of joy. The mother is looking at the child with tears of happiness, tears of joy. Pulakam atanoti. Pulakam, to translate into English, goose pimples, goosebumps, or horripilations. That's the best we can translate this word pulakam. Atanoti. So with the tears of joy, Janani brings about pulakam, Bhakti Janani brings about this horripilations or goosebumps in the child. Now, when you look at the English dictionary of horripilations or goosebumps or goose pimples, it would say, out of fear or excitement. So it can have many emotions. But this word, horripilations, I mean, pulaka is something which many of us might have experienced. For example, especially when you are listening to some music which you are completely engrossed in, or viewing a play, or say dance. One example was when you see the devotion, the bhaktis, and how dancers bring about it very beautifully, well depicting either the bhakti of Shabari or say Prahlada, or when suddenly Narahari emerges and you're watching a play or a dance and Narahari emerges to protect Prahlada. These are certain just examples I'm giving you. Or when Krishna suddenly he starts, he's far away in Dwarka, but Draupadi is in so far, she's so far geographically, but when she surrenders to him, he protects her by giving her that continuous flow of vastram in the assembly of kings before all those Kauravas and all after the game of dice. So when you see Krishna's protection being depicted and Draupadi's surrender and Krishna coming to her rescue immediately at that very moment, when you're watching a play or seeing, a dance, you will experience that. These are some examples. Pulaka, I'm sure most of us have experienced. Now, this Pulaka, again in Bhakti, wherever you have descriptions of Bhakti, many poets, composers, they refer to this. So it is not exactly why I'm emphasizing on this is, if you look up English dictionary, horripilations, goosebumps, goose pimples, the dictionary meaning you get cannot really convey what Pulaka is. Therefore, we have to understand the limitations of the translations, but trying to understand what is being referred to here. And in, for example, it's also called Romanchana in Sanskritam and other Indian languages. In Jayadeva's Gita Govindam, where it is also a Bhakti Shastram with the Gopikas and Krishna, Radha and Krishna, many times he uses Pulaka. So Vipula Pulaka Bhuja Pallava Valayita Vallava Yuvati Sahasram, by describing the Rasa Krida or the dance, the divine cosmic dance of Krishna with the gopis, he uses this Pulaka. That is the experience when you have that divine touch. That is Pulaka. And Tyagaraja, even in very famous Kriti, Bantu Riti Kolu, which you all might have heard in Raga Hamsanada, in the Charanan, he says, Romanchamane Ghana Kanchukamu Rama Bhaktudane Mudra Billayu. Romanchamane, that is another synonym for Pulaka. Ghana Kanchukamu. So why I'm referring to this is this Pulaka is given a lot of importance. And again, I think in the 22nd Ashtapadi of Jayadeva, which is called the Kalyana Ashtapadi. Even there we have Vipula Pulaka Bharadanturitam Ratikeli Kalabhiradhiram. So Pulaka is that is that, it really doesn't have a translation in English, but that feeling of extreme excitement, joy, of divinity, of that bliss which you experience. And as a result of which, they would say that, the way it is shown physically is the hair standing on its roots, on your hands, etc. So that is Pulaka. And that happens when a bhakta experiences that divinity, which we all experience when we see art or even when we are listening to something, so that is the mother, Bhakti Janani. She brings about this pulaka in the child with her ananda, with her tears of joy. And nairmalyataha chadanam. So we know that, the newborn babies, they have to be swaddled with a blanket, with anything, with soft cloth. And that is what, especially for the first 3 months, they say, even doctors say it's very important for them to feel secure and sleep. So this Bhakti Janani, with what does she swaddle that young devotee, that newborn devotee? She swaddles that devotee with nairmalyam, that is absolute purity. So now that chitta shuddhi, that nirmala shuddhi is like very important in bhakti. So with nirmala, with nairmalyam, absolutely no impurity, blemishless. With that state of mind, that itself is the swaddle for the baby. That itself is the cloth which is wrapped around the baby, that pure cloth. Then vacha, with her words, this is all Bhakti Janani doing this. Shankha mukhe sthitaischa charitamritaihi jathara purtim. So what is the amritam? Now the amritam, that is what sustains the newborn, that is the mother's milk. So here for the newborn devotee, the charitramritam, that is the nectar-like stories, the nectar of the charitra or the legends of Parameshwara. By telling those to the child, she fills the child's stomach. Jathara purtim atanoti. Vacha, with her words. This also means how, for a newborn and for children, it is so important to inculcate these values by narrating these stories to them and inculcating that bhakti. So, vacha charitramritaihi jathara purtim fills the stomach with the divine stories of nectar of Parameshwara. Again, very beautiful word. Shankha mukhe sthitaihi. Shankha mukha, when for very small, months babies or weeks babies, traditionally they were not given, these bottles which we have. So you have what Shankha mukha is, something which is a silver or a metal container, which is shaped like a conch or the ear of a cow. In fact, even now you get that it is called paladi in some of the languages, Kannada, Telugu, etc. And today also doctors, some of them recommend only that. So in case you have to give, because when the kid is very small, you don't give with a glass or a spoon or something like that. So then that is called Shankha Mukha. Many of you might have seen it. Traditionally, it used to be there, like grandparents' time, mother's time, and all that. That's what was used to feed the children. Shaped like the ear of a cow. So that is Shankha Mukha, called Paladi. With that, they used to fill milk or water or whatever, or even medicine, and pour it slowly into the mouth of the baby. So that Shankha Mukha, that those Charitramritas, the divine stories of Parameshwara, they are filled in that Shankha Mukha, that Paladi, and they are poured into the mouth of that infant. And with that, Jathara Purtim Atanoti, with that the stomach is filled. Very beautifully described by Shankaracharya. Then Raksha, this is something which we all know traditionally also in houses, even now in all households. There are a lot of pujas, rituals undertaken for protection of the baby in whichever way, according to our traditions, family traditions, etc. So how does Bhakti Janani, what is the Raksha she keeps for the baby? Rudrakshahi bhasitena vapushaha. On the body of the baby, the Rudraksha and the sacred ash, that is, which are auspicious for Parameshwara. That is the Vibhuti and the Rudraksha. With this, she protects the child. Raksham Atanoti. And even when we do yajnas and all, you see this Raksha is given as a mark of protection if you keep that. Of course, even vibhuti is a matter of protection, raksha. So this bhakti janani with rudraksha mala, the sacred rudraksha beads, and with the vibhuti of Parameshwara, she protects the child. And bhavat bhavana paryanke viniveshya. What is the cot on which the child sleeps? Bhavana paryanka. That is the cot which is Bhagavan's contemplation itself. Bhavat bhavana. He's addressing this to Parameshwara. So, O Parameshwara, O Deva, Bhavat bhavana paryanke viniveshya. Thinking of you, contemplating about you itself is the cot. On this cot, having placed the child, Bhakti Janani Bhaktarbhakam Rakshati. This is the way in which Bhakti Janani protects that Bhaktarbhaka, that newborn devotee. So, a very beautiful description of Bhakti being Janani herself and then protecting the child. So again, yesterday was Varalakshmi and today it's continuing for those who are continuing the puja, today being Shravana Purnima. So Bhakti Janani, very apt verse we are studying today of devotion itself being Janani, Bhakti Janani. So we can all recite this verse as an offering to Varalakshmi also, who is whom we all celebrate. We are celebrating yesterday, today. Let me just read the meaning once, the whole meaning. Bhakti, the loving mother, tenderly protects her devotee, just as a mother cares for her infant. She wraps the devotee in the covering of purity, bringing about pulaka. I would prefer to use pulaka itself if you can understand, because I don't think the English word would do justice to it. With tears of joy, she nourishes the soul with the nectar-like stories of Bhagavan, feeding it through words that flow like the sacred sounds of the Vedas. She adorns the body with rudraksha beads and sacred ash, ensuring divine protection. Placing the devotee upon the soft bed of Parameshwara's bhavana, that is constant contemplation of Shiva, bhakti guards and nurtures the soul, keeping it ever immersed in divine grace and devotion. Okay, let us quickly chant this verse. Vishalakshi Bhagini, thank you so much for that. She's very rightly said it is also called Gokarnam. You're right, Bhagini. I missed mentioning that. So that Paladi is also called Gokarnam. And in fact, even today, there are doctors who recommend that over, the plastic, any plastic bottle, etc., for the newborns. So it's called Gokarna or Paladi. Traditionally, you would have seen, I have seen my grandmothers and mothers, so that silver one, small one through which a baby is fed. So that is here he is referring to that. In that, the Charitramrita, the stories of Parameshwara are filled, and the Bhakti Janani feeds the infant to fill the infant's stomach. So let us read. Thank you, Bhagini. It's also called Gokarnam, and she says it's called Paladai in Tamil also. Okay, let us chant this verse once. Anandashrubhiratanoti pulakam नैर्मल्यतश्छादनम् वाचा शङ्खमुखे स्थितैश्च जठरापूर्तिं चरित्रामृतैः रुद्राक्षैर्भसितेन देववपुषः रक्षां भवद्भावना पर्यङ्के विनिवेश्य भक्तिजननी भक्तार्भकं rakshati. Another question, Shubha Bhagini, sthitaihi. Sthitaihi plus cha. When it combines, the sandhi becomes sthitaischa. Charitramritaihi sthitaihi. Meaning, those charitramritas, the nectar of those stories, they are sthita actually means standing, or they are placed in that Gokarna or Shankhamukha. And through that, the baby is fed, the infant is fed. That is the meaning. Okay. Next one, a very beautiful verse, and one of my favorites, favorite of one of my Guru, Anantar Mata also. So this is those who have viewed the trailer for Shivanandalahari course before we started. This was the verse which was chanted in the trailer, 63rd verse. So this shows the epitome of bhakti of one of the greatest of Shiva Bhaktas. So let us chant this first charu. Margavartita paduka pashupatehe.
मार्गावर्तितपादुका पशुपतेः मार्गावर्तितपादुका पशुपतेः
अंगस्य कूर्चायते
अङ्गस्य कूर्चायते अङ्गस्य कूर्चायते
गण्डूषाम्बुनिषेचनं पुररिपोः
गण्डूषाम्बुनिषेचनं पुररिपोः गण्डूषाम्बुनिषेचनं पुररिपोः
दिव्याभिषेकायते
दिव्याभिषेकायते दिव्याभिषेकायते
किञ्चित् भक्षितमांसशेषकबलम्
किञ्चिद् भक्षितमांसशेषकबलम् किञ्चिद् भक्षितमांसशेषकबलम्
नव्योपहारायते
नव्योपहारायते नव्योपहारायते
भक्तिः किं न करोत्यहो वनचरः
भक्तिः किन्न करोत्यहो वनचरः भक्तिः किन्न करोत्यहो वनचरः
भक्तावतंसायते
भक्तावतंसायते भक्तावतंसायते
मार्गावर्तितपादुका पशुपतेः अङ्गस्य कूर्चायते
मार्गावर्तितपादुका पशुपतेः अङ्गस्य कूर्चायते मार्गावर्तितपादुका पशुपतेः अङ्गस्य कूर्चायते
गण्डूषाम्बुनिषेचनं पुररिपोः दिव्याभिषेकायते
गण्डूषाम्बुनिषेचनं पुररिपोः दिव्याभिषेकायते गण्डूषाम्बुनिषेचनं पुररिपोः दिव्याभिषेकायते
चिद्भक्षितमांसशेषकबलम् नव्योपहारायते
किञ्चिद् भक्षितमांसशेषकबलम् नव्योपहारायते किञ्चिद् भक्षितमांसशेषकबलम् नव्योपहारायते
किं न करोत्यहो वनचरः भक्तावतंसायते
भक्तिः किन्न करोत्यहो वनचरः भक्तावतंसायते भक्तिः किन्न करोत्यहो वनचरः भक्तावतंसायते.
Note the Mahapranas, they are highlighted. Bhaktihi kim na, combining it becomes bhakti kinna. Bhaktihi here jihva mulya, kim plus na becomes kinna. Margavartita paduka pashupatehe अङ्गस्य कूर्च्छायते गण्डूषाम्बुनिषेचनं पुररिपोः दिव्याभिषेकायते
मार्गावर्तितपादुका पशुपतेः अङ्गस्य कूर्चायते गण्डूषाम्बुनिषेचनं पुररिपोः दिव्याभिषेकायते मार्गावर्तितपादुका पशुपतेः अङ्गस्य कूर्चायते गण्डूषाम्बुनिषेचनं पुररिपोः दिव्याभिषेकायते
चिद्भक्तितमांसशेषकबलं नव्योपहारायते भक्तिः किन्न करोत्यहो वनचरः भक्तावतंसायते
किञ्चिद्भक्षितमांसशेषकबलं नव्योपहारायते भक्तिः किन्न करोत्यहो वनचरः भक्तावतंसायते किञ्चिद्भक्षितमांसशेषकबलं नव्योपहारायते भक्तिः किन्न करोत्यहो वनचरः भक्तावतंसायते
पादुका पशुपतेः अङ्गस्य कूर्च्छायते गण्डूषाम्बुनिषेचनं पुररिपोः दिव्याभिषेकायते किञ्चित् भक्षितमांसशेषकबलं नव्योपहारायते भक्तिः किन्न करोत्यहो वनचरः भक्तावतंसायते
मार्गावर्तितपादुका पशुपतेः अङ्गस्य कूर्चायते गण्डूषाम्बुनिषेचनं पुररिपोः दिव्याभिषेकायते किञ्चिद्भक्षितमांसशेषकबलं नव्योपहारायते भक्तिः किन्न करोत्यहो वनचरः भक्तावतंसायते
Tamam. A very beautiful verse, 63rd verse. So, describing the story of one of the very prominent Shiva Bhaktas. So there was, maybe we will complete the meaning also of this today. So in a forest, there lived a tribe, and they were hunters, traditionally hunters, and they had, this tribe had a leader, a tribe leader, the king of the tribe, so to say. And then that leader had a son, and his son's name was Tinna. And when that son became old enough to learn the art of hunting, etc., his father taught him a lot of hunting, and he was extremely brave, and he very bravely led his tribe of hunters. And once when they were going hunting this way, then there are many legends to this story, and you will find, especially in the South Indian languages, you will find many beautiful references and literary pieces describing the story in Kannada, Telugu, and probably Tamil also. I'm not aware of, but you could see. So if there is something like that, please go ahead and read it. So you have descriptions of the story where this hunter, this Tinna, this boy, he is led by a wild boar. So he's in pursuit of that wild boar hunting. He is taken away from his tribe. So he's alone, he goes, and then he is led to the Shiva Linga below a tree. So then in that there is a Kannada movie also, if I'm not wrong, on this particular episode. So you have various versions, but anyway, let's focus on the bhakti aspect. So there under that tree, he sees a Shivalinga and he forgets himself completely. He is overwhelmed with devotion. He's completely taken over by bhakti towards the Shivalinga. Then he sees that there were some dried leaves, etc. on the Shivalinga. It wasn't clean. He says, oh, how can my Bhagavan be like this? How can he be so dirty? So immediately what he does, see, what he has is that pure blemishless bhakti, nothing else, that love towards Bhagavan. And he wants nothing but Bhagavan. And then he takes his own, he doesn't know how to do puja. He's a hunter, he's a tribal in the forest. He is not trained in the Vedic rituals of how to do Abhisheka and all that. But he has that absolute devotion, bhakti towards Parameshwara. So then what he does, he with his own footwear, he starts instinctively. I mean, how can my Bhagavan be so dirty? He has flowers, dried flowers, leaves on him. So he starts cleaning the Shivalinga with his footwear. Margavartita paduka pashupatehe angasya purchayate. Margavartita paduka. The slippers which were extensively used, marga, in the way, in the paths, such slippers, Pashupatehe Angasya, for the body of Pashupati. That is, he's in the form of a linga there, Shivalinga. Kurchayate, he starts cleaning that with his own footwear. Then I have to give him a bath. I have to bathe Parameshwara. How am I going to do it? He just runs and it's a forest area. He finds a stream of water. He doesn't even look whether there is anything, and he doesn't have a patram or a silver, whatever, with him to do Abhisheka. He brings water in his mouth. Gandu Shambu Nishechanam. Puraripoho Divya Abhishekayate. He just gets water in his own mouth. He can't wait to find something suitable. In his own mouth, he brings water and Divya Abhishekayate. That itself is the Divya Abhisheka. That is the pure Abhisheka to Parameshwara. That is the water from his Gandu Shambu in Sanskrit refers to the water which is kept in the mouth. Puraripoho Divyabhishekayate, for Puraripu, for the one who has destroyed Tripurasura, that is for Parameshwara, the water from the mouth of this Tinna, this tribal, this boy, that itself becomes the Abhisheka. Then, oh, my Parameshwara is hungry, my Bhagavan is hungry, what can I offer him? What do hunters eat? They eat meat, right? So that is what they have traditionally been eating. And what does he do? He finds the best of meat and Kinchit bhakshita mamsa shesha kabalam. Kinchit bhakshita, little eaten. Mamsa shesha kabalam, the meat which is left over after eating. So he tastes, is it good for my Parameshwara? And that meat is left over. That is what he knows. He doesn't know anything else apart from that. That is his food. So Tinna, he offers that itself. Navyopaharayate, that itself becomes the fresh Naivedya offered to Parameshwara. And with his pure bhakti, hey Vanachara, hey bhakti kim nakaroti aho Vanacharaha bhaktavatamsayate. Vanacharaha, that is, oh hunter, vane charati iti Vanacharaha, tribal, a person who is roaming around in the forest. So, hey hunter, Vanacharaha bhaktavatamsayate, that hunter becomes the best, foremost among devotees. Bhaktavatamsayate, he becomes the greatest of devotees. Bhaktihi, aho bhaktihi kim na karoti. Aho is an exclamation in Sanskritam. Whenever you have, a deep emotion, aho is expressed. So see how there is that emotion expressed by Shankaracharya in this verse towards bhakti. Aho bhaktihi kim na karoti. What can bhakti not do? That pure bhakti of this Tinna hunter, it made him the greatest of devotees. Further, as the story goes, what happens? So then Parameshwara, there are versions which say that the Purohit of the temple is very, he's he's like, what is this? Who is offering? He sees pieces of meat and all that. And he's extremely, this is one version of the story which says that he gets very shocked and scared at who is doing this. Then Parmeshwara comes in the dream and tells him, you come and see you come and experience the bhakti of this Bhaktagresara, of this hunter. Then when the one version says the Purohit is watching. So then here what happens, this Kannappa comes one day and he does his puja, the way he does cleaning and abhisheka and offers meat. Then Shiva's eye starts bleeding. Then he's very shocked and he wants to insta, how can my Bhagavan's eye bleed? What can I do? Immediately, he removes his eye with his arrow and places it on Parameshwara's eye, on the Shivalinga, and it stops bleeding. Then next, another eye starts bleeding. So then he thinks he's ready to give his other eye, but he thinks, now I had one eye, so I could see where Parmeshwara's eye is and I kept my eye. But now if I remove my other eye also, I will be blind. So how will I know where to place on the Shivalinga? So what does he do? He puts his own foot near the bleeding eye of Parameshwara as a goal, as an aim there, as a mark where the eye has to be placed. So keeping one foot on near Parameshwara's bleeding eye, with his standing on one leg, he goes to remove his other eye also to place on Parameshwara. This is the way Parameshwara did this to show the world and to show how deep his devotion was of this hunter. And then he catches hold of his hand and blesses him with ultimate. Of course, he has had the darshan of Parmeshwara. What more can one ask for? So because he gave his own eye, that is, he offered his own eye, this Tinna, this person, this hunter, came to be called Kannappa. Kann in Tamil, Telugu, and even in Kannada, Kannu in Telugu means eye. Appa, Kannannu, Arpisidavanu or Appisidavanu, the one who gave his own eye. So he became famous as Kannappa Nayanar. And you know, the Nayanar saints, the 63 Nayanar saints are the greatest of devotees of Parameshwara. And they attained that state of bhakta, of that, being Nayanars only through their pure bhakti or devotion. Bhakti hi kim na karoti. And this story finds a mention in the Shiva Purana also. Lot of literature, like I said, in our Kannada, Telugu and other languages. And Shankaracharya has placed this legend of Kannappa in Shivanandalahari. We can see how important this legend is and how great a devotee Kannappa was for Shankaracharya to place him. And he says, Aho bhaktihi kim na karoti bhaktavatamsayate. Vanacharaha bhaktavatamsayate. Vanachara is the greatest of all devotees. So a very, very beautiful verse. And also when I was thinking about this, I thought 63 is a very significant number because there are 63 Nayanas, right? So did Shankaracharya, this is just something to think about and contemplate. Did he, place it very strategically as the 63rd verse? Because 63 are, we know, generally we say the 63 Nayanars. So to refer to, the Nayanars and giving Kannappa the place of a Nayanar. And what a great, tradition and this samskara we have in our Sanatana Dharma, that, whatever is your vritti, do that well. And he was a hunter. He was not trained in Vedic rituals. He did not do the upachara pujas, but his own devotion, his bhakti, earned him the place of a Nayanar who is celebrated across centuries, after many centuries, and he lived much before Shankaracharya. Shankaracharya praises him in the 63rd verse of Shivanandalahari. And this story is given a place in the Shiva Puranas. And this shows how, Sanatana Dharma gives importance to bhakti, devotion, and that spirit of equality, whatever may be one's background. he was not even a literate. He did not even know how to, he did not chant stotras or anything. But what he had was that pure devotion. Our Mahasanidhanam of Sringeri Sri Sri Bharati Tirtha Swaminaha, in one episode, it's available on YouTube. Very beautifully, he has described this story. And just when we were releasing this trailer for Shivanandalahari course with this particular verse, I came across that and I listened to that. So very beautifully he describes the story, and there he refers to one verse. He says, Bhavagrahi Janardanaha. Ubhayo Sadrisham Punyam Bhavagrahi Janardanaha. Now, the story which he has referred to there is one particular person trained in Sanskrit. He says Vishnave Namaha. And another person who is not trained, he says Vishnaya Namaha. And in Sanskrit grammar, the correct Chaturthi Vibhakti is Vishnave Namaha. It is not Vishnaya. Ramaya Namaha is correct because it's Akaranta Pullinga. But it is Ukaranta Pullinga, Vishnu Shabda is Vishnave Namaha. But there is a verse in Sanskrit which says one person who knows the correct grammar, he says Vishnave Namaha. The other person with equal devotion, he says Vishnaya Namaha. Now, this doesn't mean that we should not know the right grammatical usage. What this verse seeks to convey is Ubhayos Sadrisham Punyam Bhavagrahi Janardanaha. However, Vishnu, Janardana, while blessing the person, while these two people, one who said correctly in the Chaturthi Vibhakti, one who didn't say correctly, Ubhayoho Sadrisham Punyam, he grants the same punya. Why? Bhavagrahi Janardana. Janardana is a person who seeks or who accepts the bhava, the devotion. In 9th chapter also, Gita, Bhagavan says, Patram Pushpam Phalam Toyam Yome Bhaktya Prayachati Tadaham Bhaktyupahritam Ashnami Prayatatmanaha. Whoever offers me, you don't have to offer riches and something very great. Patram, leaf. Draupadi offered him a leaf with devotion. Pushpam, Gajendra offered Bhagavan the flower with devotion. Phalam, that is Shabari. She also tasted the fruit. She says, is this nice for my Rama? And Lakshmana was hesitant. Rama says, it's okay, have it. She tastes and only the nice tasting fruits she gives. All these are bhakta agresaras. Only bhakti is important. Therefore, when Krishna shows the Vishwarupa to Arjuna, he says, Naham vedair na tapasa na danena na chejaya shakya evam vidho drashtum drishtavanasi mam yatha. Bhaktiyatu ananyaya shakyaha ahamevam vidorjuna. Arjuna, naham vedaihi. The way you have seen me in this Vishwarupa form, you could do it only because of your ananya bhakti. Bhaktiyatu ananyaya shakyaha. Naham vedaihi, not by Vedas, na tapasa, not by penance, not by yajnas, not by anything. You could see this me in Vishwarupa, which everybody can't view that, right? Arjuna was blessed by Bhaktiyatvananyaya Shakyaha Ahamevam Vidhorjuna Nyatum Drashtum Cha Tatvena Praveshtum Cha Parantapa. Okay, very beautiful verse today on Bhakti. Let us chant this verse once. Want to chant? Margavartita Paduka Pashupatehe Angasya Murchayate Gandushambunishecanam Puraripoho Divyabhishekayate Kinchit Bhakshitamam Sasheshakabanam Navyopahayate Bhakti Kimna Karotyaho Panachado Bhaktavasamsayate Uttamam. Okay. So today, like we said, we had Shravana Purnima and Samskrita Dinam, Upakarma also, and the day after Varalakshmi Vratam. So thank you so much to all of you for attending, despite it being a festival and so many festivals also. And on this day, we have completed two very beautiful verses, Bhakti Janani, and on Kannappa Nayanar. Please read up on Kannappa Nayanar in your respective languages. Very beautiful descriptions are there, I'm sure. I will just, okay, Revati Bhagini says in Tamil too, he is called Kannappa Nayanar. Tinnan is popularly known as Kannappa Nayanar in Tamil literature. My guru, Anantam Mata, every time she gave Shivanandalahari Upanyasa, she would make children either depict this or she would make, make one of her students to depict this in Bharatanatyam dance very beautifully. So, like I said, one of the instances where you experience that pulaka. So let us conclude with the Shanti Mantraha. Om Sarve Bhavantu Sukhinah Sarve Santu Niramayah Sarve Bhadrani Pashyantu Ma Kaschit Dukha Bhag Bhavet Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. धन्यवादाः सर्वेभ्यः संस्कृतदिनस्य श्रावणपूर्णिमायाः उपाकर्मा पर्वणः हार्दाः अनन्ताः शुभाशयाः धन्यवादाः. Thank you to our panelists also, Charu and Shriya, for coming today and helping us, though it's a festival and some of you have school, etc. Thank you so much. Punar Vilamah. Ram Ram Ram.